deep recesses of one's mind, there is a voice, a guiding light through the darkness, a connection to the other side.
You're ready to wake up, you're going to wake up. And if you're not ready, you're going to stay pretending that you're just a poor little me.
Pathway to spiritual that echoes with enlightenment. The voice of spirit. The voice of spirit.
You are a function of this total galaxy, bounded by the Milky Way, and that furthermore, this galaxy is a function of all other galaxies.
Your journey starts here and now. With your host and connection to spirit, Leo Bonomo.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you happen to be in the world. Very, very warm welcome to Kcor and the show. Tonight we've got a wonderful medium, Adam Berry, and we'll be talking to him for the duration of the show. And Adam is a modern day spiritualist with traditional values, and he grew up in and around Bury in Lancashire. He was awarded Spiritualist National Union's prestigious Gordon Higginson Memorial Award in 2016, has also received a certificate of recognition with the SNU, and that's the CSNU in both speaking and demonstrating. He's a lovely man, and he's well known for his compassion and dedication in serving others and providing survival of the soul after physical death. He studied at the Arthur Findlay College, which is a world-renowned college for the advancement of spiritualism. And Adam considers himself privileged to have experienced some wonderful tutoring from well-respected people such as Mavis Patilla, who helped mentor and nurture Adam. Apologise, into the well-respected medium today. So he's nationally recognised, and he's certainly known well out of the UK as well. And we first met a number of years ago, and I'm sure you've all heard of Helen Duncan, the famous physical medium, and we were at a memorial for her, and we met through Margaret Hahn, who we'll have on the show at some point. And Margaret is Helen Duncan's granddaughter. So we met at that. Very, very warm welcome, Adam. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, Leo. Thanks for having me. It was a fantastic time, that, wasn't it, at the convention?
It was, and it was nice to do something with Margaret for Helen, and we've discussed Helen on the show a number of times, and I'm sure many people understand that she was a world famous medium. She was known as much for her predictions as her mediumship, because she made some quite startling predictions, didn't she?
She did, yes.
Yeah. So that's fantastic, and that's something that I'm quite into, predictions and that, because we do get challenged, don't we, by skeptics, and on a lot of fronts and things that we do. But I find, it's especially if we get the accusation of cold reading thrown at us, you can't cold read a future prediction. So it's something I'm in favour of. Is that something that you touch on at all, and have you got experiences of that?
With future predictions, well, I don't necessarily call them future predictions, but like a potential, because we've all got a potential that touches within our energy, as we have a past and a present. So on occasions there is that potential that comes through, and I've had experiences with my own life as well, that when you just know that something's going to happen, or there's just these experiences that you have this thought and then it happens, or even through dreams as well, having that having the dreams that become sort of premonitions, and being able to touch. You don't realize at the time, but they're able to touch within to the future.
Yeah, and for me, that was something that was certainly prolific. I mean, I was very aware of spirit at a young age, but I went through a period where there were a lot of predictions and the predictions of plane crashes and stuff. And for me, I just found it fascinating that these thoughts or dreams, if it was in sleep state, would sort of materialize. And I know some people find that quite scary. You know, I talk to mediums and teachers well, and some say, "Oh, I wouldn't want anything like that." And I never had a fear of it. For me, it was just a fascination that I was shown something, and I know quite a few mediums get them, and I think it's spirit's way of just reinforcing. Look, there's something different. There's something outside of yourself, and this is like a little nibble. It's a little taster. So, tell us how you first became interested in spirit and your first experience.
Well, it goes. We've not got that long on the show, have we? But we've. If I was to go back as being a child, I wasn't a child that saw spirit. I was a child that was very sensitive. I was a child that was quite withdrawn, really. But I had all these feelings, and I could pick up on
Mm.
environments. And like we say about the premonitions, and I had a very strong intuition. And I was able to, so obviously this child in an adult world, and you're wondering why these adults are doing these things when you know that this is going to happen. And it was really strange for me to feel in this way. But at Bury, it was the place I was brought up, there's a spiritualist church. And every time we drove past that main road to Bury Spiritualist Church, I always got a feeling or a wonder what happens in there.
Yeah.
And it went throughout my childhood, that, but we never went in because my parents weren't religious or interested in anything like that. But it wasn't until I was 19 years old, bearing in mind by this time my real father had passed away at the age of 17, so that was kind of like a train crash within my life.
Absolutely.
So at the age of 19, through a lot of ups and downs, with a group of friends, we went into a spiritualist church, this church that I'd always been drawn to as a child. And we went in, and the medium was on the platform. I didn't know what to expect on there. And obviously we was in the congregation, and I absolutely thought that this medium must come here every week. You know, she must know these people. How does she know this information? Because it was just, and there was about 8 of us that had gone this time, a group of friends, and we didn't realise that after the service, when the medium actually has a cup of tea and a biscuit, you're supposed to sort of like leave them there to rest after the service, but we all sort of congregated around the table, and just looking at her like she was an alien. And what she said to us was, she went, "Where's John?" And she's clicking her fingers together like as if she was chopping with scissors. Well, we had a friend called John who should have been that night, who was an hairdresser. And it was like, how does she know that? How does she know that? So we was all a bit freaked out. And she then went round each one of us and gave us all a piece of information. And that piece of information was some evidential information about my dad in the spirit world. And that piece of information kept me going back week after week after week, because I wanted more. I wanted to know more about him, if he's okay. And, you know, this was the catalyst for a path of me becoming a healer, a hands-on healer, and getting more involved spiritualism and getting to understand the spirit world. And I didn't really have an opinion about things at that time either. I was very influenced. So if someone said you're a healer, I'd go, oh, okay then. And I'd start training to be a healer. And if someone said you're a medium, it's like, oh, right, okay then, I'll try and do that then. And I sort of found myself sitting in circles and Unbeknownst to me, I sat in a circle for 18 months and absolutely nothing happened. And I would just, there was people that were sat next to me and they were going under waterfalls, over rainbows and jumping on unicorns. And I'm thinking, what is going on here? I'm not seeing any of this. I don't know what's going on. And but there was something that kept me going back. And now I believe it was my soul that was putting me in that place to develop. And, obviously the spirit world were influencing that. Yeah. And as time went on, I'd obviously got quite involved. And I remember getting the contact off my dad in the spirit world, and it was 6 years later. And I remember my best friend crying next to me saying, like, you've been waiting for this. And it was like, yeah, it was so profound, but it was like, but something's happened now where it's become more than this message I've been coming for week in, week out. This is my life now, and I really started to understand myself more, as well as I was developing with my own soul and the spirit world. And it's as if like my development became more serious then. And I became sort of like the eternal course junkie as well at that point. I really did. And I think people can identify with that, because I just wanted to, if I've got this ability, then I want to be able to nurture it, but I just didn't know where to go. So I go anywhere, really.
I think it's wonderful that you had that dedication, because in a sense, that's the old school way of developing, isn't it? Where you set, for ages, and you sit in the power as yes, and you say, and you think, well, after a few weeks, especially as even an older teenager, you think, I've done this for 3 months, that's it, been there, done it, get out. But I think it's wonderful that dedication sort of kept you there.
Yeah. I mean, it was, I suppose with me, I very much lacked self-confidence, as a lot of people do. And I could never see myself up on the platform. I could never see myself. I'd watch mediums and I think, yeah, that's okay, but maybe I'm sort of a more private person. And I could never see myself going and doing that, because I couldn't bear the thought of people looking at me up in front of people. And that took a lot to sort of overcome. But one thing that my mentor always said, because I sort of go into that, where I got in touch with Mavis, because that happened with a dream with Mavis, where I had a dream that she was on a train platform, and she, as we were walking down, she says, "Are you coming on my course, young man?" And I said, "I can't," because I thought he had work and I didn't know how to get out of this work situation. And I woke up and it was like 5 o'clock in the morning, because the look of disappointment on Mavis's face woke me up. And I know, and I was like thinking for about an hour, how can I go on this course? Because and then it was like, hang on a minute, I don't even know what this course is about. So I grabbed my phone at the side of the bed, and I went on Mavis's website, and then there was this mentorship, what I'd never heard of before, that just flashed up, and it was like a thunderbolt to my solar plexus. It really, this excitement, this, I just thought, this is it. This is something that I need. And before I knew it, I was applying for it before I'd even spoke to my partner about it. I was applying for it. And because when you just know that something's right. And,
absolutely, yeah.
And it was so right, because what Mavis did with me, she nurtured everything that I'd learnt within the past. She brought things together. She's taught me so much about prayer, about the sacredness of mediumship, philosophy and speaking, and obviously in the evidential mediumship. And through that, it gave me so much confidence that by the end of that year, which I finished it 5 years ago, last weekend, the first mentorship, and I was taking my own services, which was something I would have never have dreamt of. You know, I was taking my own divine services and demonstrating mediumship, and that was sort of like my pathway of that just continues to grow from that point as well, because it's not as if that was it, because you're constantly learning and evolving with this path.
Yeah,
But,
I learn something every day. Mostly what I learn is I don't really know much, because like there's a sort of explosion of knowledge, and it's like, wow. And then, and it comes out of nowhere, and then you think, well, actually, it's quite obvious because it's been around me all my life. And then I kind of feel it's very humbling, which I'm grateful for. But then I sort of think it's been there. I'm blind. I've not seen it. We've actually had a very similar experience like that. When I was young and at primary school, I won a ribbon for swimming a width, and they called out your name at assembly, and I got up, got the ribbon, turned round, saw faces looking at me, and fainted. So because it was just like all these faces, and so I was quite like that myself. And the other thing that we have in connection as well, have you heard of Robert Brown, the medium? He's internationally
known.
The
name's familiar. Familiar.
He's a fabulous medium, and I had a dream of him, and he was telling me to go to the SAGB, Spiritual Association of Great Britain, and get on a course with Jerry March. And I hadn't heard of Robert Brown, hadn't heard of Jerry March, but I'd heard of the SAGB. So I went along, and I had an interview with Jerry. And at first she said, I don't think you're ready. And so it was like, oh, okay. But I managed to get on Robert Brown's course. And then they were done in 10-week blocks. Well, he did 4 weeks and then disappeared. Nobody knew where he'd gone, but he'd gone to Germany. And so there was a little bit of a gap there. And then I reapplied, and Jerry accepted me. I think this was, it may have been a couple of months later when she had a gap, and she could see there must have been a change in me. So in that sense, we've both had those dreams which have been instructive as well as predictive. So I find that fascinating.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. It's definitely a guidance there, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I know what you meant. I like, we all need a touch of ego just to get on platform. But I like mediums that it's very controlled, It's not like, here I am, come and worship. It's we're doing a job. It's a privilege to serve. And that's what it is, and I do like that. Personally, I think the more humble we are, the more we learn. And that actually, in context to what I've said, sounds a bit egotistical, but it's not meant to be. Because I think if you're open to anything and everything, you do learn, don't you? You're kind of an open book waiting to be written in. Oh, fantastic! So, whereabouts do you demonstrate?
Well, I'm obviously from the northwest of England, so with the local churches and centres. But I have been invited to go across England. I've been to Ireland demonstrating, and I've just been doing funnily enough, I did a seminar this last weekend at the Chadwick Hotel in Lytham St Anne's, and it was a bit of a first for me that it was a seminar that I was part organising. So I shared it with another fabulous medium, Kcor, who's a spirit artist, and It was a lovely group, a lovely seminar that we did last week, but it has been quite a busy few weekends. The thing is with this line of work as well, it's it's trying to get a balance between your personal life and your mediumship. And I also have I work in construction as well, so it's a juggling act, of life.
Yeah,
so,
I got to a point many years ago where I actually took a rest from demonstrating for about 13 years or so, because it was just getting overpowering. It was sometimes twice a week, and that in a full-time job, as you say, like it's. I actually stopped demonstrating after I went to Wales for a week, for a night, and it was a good 8 hours all told, and I got back about 2 in the morning and had to get up at 6 for work at 7. And I thought, that's too much.
Yes, yeah.
And so
I know that feeling.
So it was kind of initiated by Spirit to say, like, take a break. It's fine. So that I found this interesting. So we've got a couple of minutes before we go into the break, but after the break I'll ask you about some of the other influences in your life. What kind of books have you read, and what sort of mediums do you appreciate from the past? Because they can be so varied, can't they?
Yeah, they can definitely. Yeah, that'd be great to chat about.
Yeah, so we'll go into that. And if you want to contact Adam, you can get him on facebook.com/Adam Berry Medium. That's all one word. You can get him on Twitter. And I can't see... have you got a website, Adam, apart from the Facebook? Yeah.
Yeah, it's adamberrymedium.com.
Yeah. I've just got that in my notes. For some, it's right in front of me, right above Facebook, and for some reason I just overlooked that temporary blindness. Yeah, so if you want to get in touch with Adam, you can get him on adamberrymedium.com, arrange your reading, booking, see where he's demonstrating or maybe doing workshops. And we'll be right back with Adam straight after this.
This is the voice of Spirit, your connection to the other side.
To understand something spiritually, you must experience it. And in order to experience it, you have to experience it in your imagination.
Explore with us by calling 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230.
Give us a call now.
Worldwide callers use Skype name Kcor Radio.
Everything that now exists was once imagined. Therefore, everything that is going to exist must first be imagined.
Back with your guide to spirit, Leo Bonomo. After these brief words from our sponsors.
Have you ever wanted to connect with your spiritual guides or celestial family? Join Joanna L. Ross on Universal Unity, New Earth Consciousness, every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. Let Joanna show you how to raise your vibrational frequency, activate your DNA, and merge with the fifth dimensional frequencies as we align with Source and our soul's blueprint as well as divine purpose. It's time for change and start the magical and mystical journey of the ascending human. Universal Unity, New Earth Consciousness, Saturdays at 10 a.m. Pacific Time and 1 p.m. Eastern, only on the Kcor Digital Radio Network.
Looking Looking for a radio show like no other?
We need something brand new.
Then tune into the KCOR Digital Radio Network, Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, and get ready for The Quantum Shift. A great shift of consciousness is sweeping across the Earth. Are you ready for the dimensional shift?
It is amazing, is it not?
The Quantum Shift.
Hosted by Dr. Sam Muggsy, Kent Dunn, and Drake Bailey.
Be part of the fifth dimensional reality, where consciousness prevails and the universal law of one is the only true reality. The Quantum Shift. Live Tuesdays, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. How could you not love him?
Hamilton the Pug's adoption story started at a shelter. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Live for 3 hours every Saturday night. It's a show that engages the mind, makes you think, and maybe even challenge what you think you know. Hi, I'm Jeremy Scott of Into the Paranormal, where we talk about topics that are anything but mainstream, somewhere between abnormal and paranormal. Bring an open mind and join us for Into the Paranormal, live Saturdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
KCOR Las Vegas.
All the time.
Of course I listen.
I listen all day. It's the best music.
KCOR, the new underground source for news, talk, and music at KCORradio.com. Tell your friends, email them, or Facebook them, or Twitter them.
Hey, are we done here? Because I'm losing my buzz.
Welcome back to the Voice of Spirit, your connection to the other side.
There's no accidents in this universe. We all show up here with a purpose. There's an intelligence that is a part of everything and everyone, and all of us are connected to it.
Connect with us on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Even better, join us live in our chat room at KCORradio.com. To get a free reading during the show, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230.
Give us a call now.
Worldwide callers, use Skype name KCOR Radio. And now, inspirational clairvoyant medium, psychic, and your connection to the spirit, the host of the Voice of Spirit, Leo Bonomo.
Hi, and a very, very warm welcome back. If you'd like to be involved in a very special project, go to my website and go to the blog page, because we're getting together some money, some funding, so you can be involved in a very, very easy way. It's not going to cost the earth. You know, you can donate whatever you want, whether it's £1 or $1 or £10, $10, whatever it might be, in a project. And it's a TV pilot, and we're going to go to Pompeii. And we've got a wonderful team. We've got Anthea Turner, a good friend of mine. We've got Sue Nicholson from Sensing Murder, Jason Figgis, a veteran of 24 films and documentaries, and John West. And so we've got a great team together. And basically what we're going to do is to go to Pompeii. It's a bit historical, so there's historical input there. But we'll also be talking to others that have passed over at that time and what they were doing. So we're getting a little insight in a spiritual sense to their lives before and prior to passing. So if that's something that you feel inclined to be a part of, and there's all kinds of incentives, you know, for what you donate, then go to my site. It's www.leo-bonomo.com, and you can literally be a part of history. And the working title at the moment is Sensing History. So if you're interested in that, fantastic. We've got a lovely gentleman and a wonderful medium, Adam Berry, on the show. Adam, welcome back.
Thank you, Leo.
No problem at all. So we all have, you spoke about a couple of experiences that I know a lot of people, especially mediums, have had, which are life changing, and they can happen in a few seconds, can't they? It's just an instinct, and it's like, that's the direction I need to go. Explain about other interesting experiences that you've had that have driven you forward. I'm not sure who I've got here, but I've got someone, and he keeps wanting to insert the word instinctive in that. So have you had experiences that instinctively have driven you in a particular direction?
There's been many, really. And, even to the point of with my day job, and instinctively knowing that, and this is going back now, instinctively knowing that applying for a job that was out of my remit, really, out of my experience, but just knowing that if I go for it, something will happen. And I actually went for this job. I was 25 at the time, and apparently when they gave like the briefing of it afterwards, because I didn't get the job, but I always knew that I wouldn't get the job.
Yeah.
And they said, "Well, I suppose you're disappointed, aren't you?" And I says, "No, I'm not disappointed." And they couldn't understand why I wasn't disappointed. And I said, "Because I always knew such a body would get the job." And they said, "But you was the most enthusiastic person out of all of them." And it's like, but just because I knew I wasn't going to get it doesn't mean to say I'm not going to give my all in what I do. And that shaped a job to be carved out for me in the way that I wanted it to be, really. So it even though it wasn't exactly what I went for, it shaped into something that was right. And I feel that was like a soul instinct to do that, because it's like, what are you doing? Your mind's saying, what are you doing? And it's like, this is all right. What? Yeah. Why are you doing this? And it's like, just go with it. Just go with it. And and it became successful. And I think if we all listen to that sort of inner compass and that light within, it can take us to many great places if we just allow it, and not allow that monkey mind to come in and say that you can't do this or you can't do that, because we have the potential to do anything that our soul allows us to do and to come into that purpose. So, it's been a great, the soul is a great compass, and the spirit within directing it, into its purpose. And I just, there's been quite a few things that have happened where, you've decided not to do something, and then that chance happening opens a door for something else that's much greater. I mean, it happened with a house that we was buying. We was all excited about buying a house, and it's only the next street away.
Yeah.
And we was getting all excited about it, and we went for a curry one night and took our friends to have a look at this house. This is the house that we're getting, only to find that it was sold. So you can imagine we was absolutely gutted, and thinking, well, how can something feel so right and then not come to fruition? We was absolutely certain, both me and my partner were certain. And then what happened after that was, a few months later, we got one on the other street that was more than we could ever dreamed of. That was a lot better than the house, more potential in the house. So, not everything that we can be guided to a place that's not necessarily our destination, our stop, but is the breadcrumb to go to where we need to get to. And I just feel we've got to follow them instincts. And it might not be instant, but it might be the pathway to where you're meant to be. And I believe it is the pathway that you're meant to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that, because it's also, as you say, getting used to listening to our soul, getting used to listening for that instruction or that little bit of guidance. And I think it's a wonderful example as well of having that instruction, being very excited about it and that part of it not working out, but you've still got the enthusiasm, because I think so many people wish and hope for stuff that's not meant to be for whatever kind of reason, and they get so deflated, don't they? They take it personally, and it can set up a very negative chain of events. And because we live life in a different way now, don't we? We sort of expect everything instant, everything's going to happen. You know, you just have to push a little bit, be maybe a little bit arrogant, push people out the way, and we're going to get it. And of course, life isn't like that. But I think society has grown used to, unfortunately. You know, it doesn't matter what you do. To get to a particular point, it doesn't matter. The point is getting there. Where with spiritualism and the way that you've described, and I know a lot of people will recognise, is it does matter how you get there, but you've got to understand where it is you're getting. What is it that's good for you? So I think it's wonderful to have had those disappointments and still kept the faith of, doesn't matter, it'll work out. And again, as you've said, sometimes, you know, you get that disappointment, but it's all it's doing really is it's taking you from one point of time to that point, and then what happens after that is so much better. You know, and it is. And I think people should sort of look for that and accept it. You know, that if it doesn't happen, you're not a failure. It's just, that's okay. I think it's the Chinese that have the saying of, the saying of, it doesn't matter how many times you fall down, it's how many times you get up. You know, it's that will to move on.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, Leo, it sort of comes from a point of where, within my life and growing up, I had this thing. I could never enjoy anything, because if there was something good going on in life, I always thought that there was something around the corner to dash it away, and that was my own limiting beliefs with things, and that made my life kind of neutral. Never being able to fully enjoy and embrace things that were happening in life, because you always had that, well, something's going to come along to dash it away, and that's too good to be true, and you know, all these sorts of things. But it was actually through spiritualism that helped me to overcome that obstacle within myself, and you know, and it is really to embrace all of life. You know, embracing that spirit within. I mentioned the spirit within, but I believe that that's the God force that resides within us, that spark. And if we, you know, connect with that, because I just feel like in this day and age now, especially, you know, we're all consumed with technology, and kids have got their heads in the phones, and adults, and it's all, you know, it's brilliant, the social media, but we are sort of cutting off from that communication as well, and we're getting sort of the extra stresses, aren't we, of technology things that we wouldn't normally have. And I think it's, even at this point in life now, it's so important to connect with the soul and with spirit, and taking that time on personal development, because we can get so distracted with everything.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's a conundrum, really, because, you know, we're in an age of what we call communication, but we've limited it very much to phones, Facebook, this and that, and we're not really talking to each other. So it's a little odd twist, isn't it, that we've got this wonderful array of things, and we sort of break it down to a basic component. My ex-wife, she was quite successful in what she did, but she tended to have that view that you've hinted at, which is it's going to go wrong at some point, and I just need to look out for it. And that's so limiting as well, isn't it? Because it does mar the joy of that moment.
Yes, it certainly does. And you know, and it can cause issues with, you know, emotionally, that you start to bottle up, you know, and you don't express to people. And this was another thing that sort of brought me into this movement, was the bereavement of my dad. When I lost my dad to the spirit world, it was, as I said, it was like a train crash. But at that time I was 17 years old, and I didn't have the emotional capacity to be able to deal with that, to deal with loss, to deal with grief. And, you know, it became something where it was bottled up, and it came out in like an addictive personality. It just, you know, it became a bit self-destructive. And I just feel now with things that I've had to face and overcome through spirituality, and I say this spiritualism that has helped overcome these obstacles. That's why I feel such a promoter of not only life after life, but life within life, because we all have a life to live.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, we tend to forget that, don't we? Sometimes
we do. We do,
and I find that peculiarly with mediums, or those certainly beginning to develop. They're so focused on that and kind of reaching that point, and it's like a train journey, isn't it? You know, you get on the train and you're just looking forward to getting off, but you're not admiring the scenery as you go past. And we can forget that we're here to experience. You know, we're here hopefully to enjoy life. I mean, lives are different, you know, different countries and that, but we're here to enjoy life. We're here to experience it. And so many people go from point A to point B, and that they miss all the beauty of it.
Yeah, definitely.
So I can understand at 17, your dad's passing, you know, hitting you like a ton of bricks. As you say, it's quite a young age, isn't it, to experience such a close relationship. But none of us that have not lost a parent or a very close friend or sibling can understand the impact of that. Nothing really prepares you for it. And we all deal with the consequences of that in a different way. So
little did I know that was a pathway that I would sort of tread upon. And it took me to some places, and especially when my dad passed away, it took me some really dark places where I had to be hospitalized, I had to be detoxed. And you know, it really, I didn't know how to feel about life anymore. I didn't know how to feel about anybody, anything. I didn't know how I felt about myself. There was all sorts of, you know, emotional things going on with me personally, with sexuality. There was all sorts of different things going on. So it was a real train crash.
Yeah.
And, you know, everyone around me was affected by this. And it took a long time through going to AA, which is something I'd like to sort of express, really, because it's really important. Because I went to Alcoholics Anonymous, and I put it on a recent post, actually, that when I started to go to Alcoholics Anonymous at the age of 18, my psychic awareness started to flourish. You know, things, dreams, just really synchronicities. There was all sorts of different things that was happening, and I just became more alert. And I don't know if you're familiar with the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, but the base there, it's the 12 steps. And when I was sort of like looking at them, they were just words to me, really, but I could concept the first couple of steps. One is to admit that you're powerless over alcohol, and to about a power that is greater than yourself. But I started to find that within 12 months of attending, it wasn't really for me. But in the meantime, I'd stepped into the spiritualist church as well, and I used to think how similar they are, but they're not. Do you know, this obviously spiritualism is for people that are investigating or are grieving about the afterlife, and that's what I thought back then. But I thought there's something similar, and I couldn't quite put my finger on it. But it was only about 2 or 3 years ago that when I was listening to a talk between Mavis Patilla and Janet Narvek from New Jersey, and Janet Narvek was a Catholic nun, and she used to work in substance misuse, and she explains this, and she talks about the 12 steps, but also talks about Bill Wilson, who was the co-founder of Alcoholics Anonymous. And she then went on to say that Bill Wilson was a medium. He was a spiritualist. And, you could still go to the place where he did his private sittings. And the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous came from spirit and from the mediumship. And I just thought, wow, it was this light bulb moment of, I've always had an inkling or an intuition that there's a similarity when I looked at the 7 principles and the 12 steps. I thought, because it's come from the same source, they've come to help mankind. And I just thought that was a big wow to me. And obviously it shows again that path that I took led me to spiritualism again, but it was all the threads of spiritualism. And I always say, when you were talking about pioneers before, I always say Bill Wilson is an unsung pioneer of spiritualism, because I just think it's amazing. So it sort of,
I think that's I think that's fascinating. I mean, I learn something every day, and as I said in the first sort of section of the show, mostly I learn how little I know, and I find it fascinating to have learnt that, and the fact that I mean, it's called the demon drink for a reason, because it can open us to entities that have had that addiction before they passed, that are earthbound, that want to leach into people that have that weakness. And so that there is that connection between spiritualism, entities, and drink, and I dare say other kinds of drugs as well. And it's fascinating to see that, and that connection made clear from you. So thank you very, very much for that. I know that will enlighten people, and they'll see that connection. One of the things that I always say is that mediums tend to have hard lives. We have lots of experiences in different ways that highlight things for us, and when we go through them, it helps our mediumship, because it's one thing, trying to be sympathetic to someone who comes for a reading and you go, oh yes, I understand. But if you've lived through it, there's an energetic, it's almost a kinetic energy that you share with them, and they understand that what they're talking about and how they're feeling. And I think this is one reason that experiences have, that mediums have such wide and varying experiences. And I think it's wonderful that you've shared that. So I've certainly learned something today about that. I didn't know about that gentleman. It's wonderful.
I just thought it was fascinating.
Absolutely. I find links between all different kinds of people, organizations, things that are happening in the world, and spirit, and it's often much more directly linked than I ever imagined. And spirit's a living thing; it's amongst us all the time. So that's absolutely fantastic. We're coming up for a break in a moment. Is there anything that you'd want to talk about after the break? Any types of study that you've had, any kinds of other experiences or anything?
I mean, I can I can talk about my the SNU, the Spiritual National Union, and the course studies that I've been doing over the past few years and continue to do, because I think they're very good courses. With the knowledge and what you learn from doing them. I've learned lots from the courses, but also as well, I'm dyslexic as well, so I find it kind of difficult to do them. So there is a struggle with that, but it's about getting through them.
Yeah, we're going to be right back with that in a moment, and we'll see you after the break.
You've been listening to Leo Bonomo. The host of The Voice of Spirit. Live every Thursday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. Exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. For more information on the show, guests, and host of The Voice of Spirit, or to book a private reading, please visit leo-bonomo.com. That's leo-bonomo.com. Your connection to the other side is just a phone call away. The Voice of Spirit.
It is amazing, is it not?
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51.
Wait, that doesn't exist.
This is the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now for the news.
In the deep recesses of one's mind, there is a voice, a guiding light through the darkness, a connection to the other side.
You're ready to wake up, you're going to wake up. And if you're not ready, you're going to stay pretending that you're just a poor little me.
A pathway to spiritual that echoes with enlightenment. The Voice of Spirit.
The Voice of Spirit.
You are a function of this total galaxy, bounded by the Milky Way, and that furthermore, this galaxy is a function of all other galaxies.
Your journey starts here and now. With your host and connection to Spirit, Leo Bonomo.
Hi, a very, very warm welcome back. We're talking to Adam Berry, a wonderful medium. And if you want any private readings or anything, you can get him on Adam Berry, and that's Adam spelt the normal way, ADAM. BERRY medium. It's all one word.com, and you can get in touch with Adam there. And of course, if you're enjoying the program, do share it, download the archive, and be one of a great, huge member of the listening audience that the station itself gets. So welcome back, Adam.
Thank you, Leo.
We were talking just before the break about the SNU, and we're going to talk about that. We've got a lovely lady and Raven's Pride, and she's asking ostensibly a very simple question, and the question is November the 6th the day? So I know it's a bit of an odd. Sometimes we get asked very odd questions, don't we, as mediums? This, I think, would be one of them, perhaps.
Yeah. Well, all I can say that if she wants to go off my intuitive feeling with that, I just feel like it's a decision that she's been trying to make for quite some time now, and it is that it could have been either the week after or the week before. But I just know that it does have to be that date. But it's kind of a big decision that she has to make, and it's personal. I know it's to do with emotions, and I know that I can't say whether it will be good or bad, because that is up to her, because she needs to go with her own intuition with that. But that's just all I'm sensing with that question, what she asks, and because obviously when people ask questions like that, it is their own responsibility, their own personal responsibility to what they do with that feeling, because it's only a feeling that I get. Yeah. But I feel like she's going to do it anyway. She's going to do it anyway on that date. So
yeah. That's actually very helpful. I can't explain why. However, it is an important day when the if what happens is meant to happen, and I'm still getting ticks for it, so I think it will happen as well. It will be emotional on a lot of different levels. So hopefully, as you're listening, Raven's Pride, if you want to just give us a little bit of feedback on that, or you want to add to the question or ask something else, you're more than welcome to. Thank you once again. Yeah, so we were talking or going to mention about the SNU, and you touched very briefly in the first section of the show that you got introduced to it and connected to it. So, carry on with that, Adam.
Okay, well, I'd always sort of been a part of the SNU, attending the churches going back to when I was 19, but it wasn't until about 2013 that I started upon the path of doing the platform accreditation scheme with the SNU, which was my starts of education with the SNU and doing the SD1. That was basic knowledge, really, about mediumship, about where spiritualism has come from, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. But I think we touched on I've got dyslexia, so I find it quite hard to read things, take things in, and sometimes expressing things in the way that they're meant to be. Like with questions, and so it took about 2 years to do the SD1, but and it does with written courses. But I then went on to do my SD4, which is presentation, and started to work towards the certificate with the Spiritualist National Union in speaking and demonstrating. So in previous to that as well, because I've got the Gordon Higginson Memorial Scholarship, so I applied for that. I actually applied for that in 2016, I think it was. That's when I got awarded it, and there was about 50 people that had gone for it, and then it was shortlisted to 10 people, and I was one of 3 people that got a scholarship, which has been really helpful to me, because it was a path that I wanted to go down, with the education. So and it enables me to get education from the Arthur Findlay College, the written education, and with that, I've still got another year left on that scholarship as well, which is something I'm really going to get my head down with this coming year, to try and do as much as I can. But it's really educational. It's helped me a lot with once I got to understand it, and I'm the type of person, if I struggle through something, I like to help other people. Yeah. So, if other people are struggling, by that time I've probably looked at everything, which way I can to try and get the answer. So I can sort of understand some people's thought processes, especially if they have dyslexia as well, similar to me. I describe myself as having slight dyslexia, but it made me sort of like a bit of a failure at school, and it wasn't picked up on until I went to college. Yeah,
I think many years ago, when I was growing up, and I went to a secondary modern. I ended up going to a grammar school by default, really. But a secondary modern, at that time, we're talking about the sort of late 60s. That was where you went if academically you were better with your hands than you were with your mind. And a lot of secondary modern schools, we did carpentry, pipe work, lead work. I learned forge work. To me, actually, a great education. But that's where we kind of got put. And I think in those days, things were less tolerant. It's if you couldn't keep up, it was like, well, you're either stupid or you can't be bothered. No grammar school for you. You get, as I say, in a sense, sidelined, but actually it was great benefit for me because I learned to use my hands very well. But I also find that when you've had these experiences, as you say, of finding these difficulties, to me, it's a great sign of a spiritual person that you take it in, you digest it, and you think, it's helped me, I can help other people.
Yes.
This may sound like a strange question to a lot of people. Do you find the dyslexia and the associated side effects of that, they're not there when you're demonstrating or when you're reading?
Definitely. And I was just going to touch on that because when you were talking about if there's any books that have influenced me and things, so the Arthur Findlay book, The Rock of Truth. Now, I read that in 2 days, and I'm not a reader, and I read it in 2 days, and I know other people have sort of struggled with the diction in it,
because it's old-fashioned,
quite an old book. Yeah, it's old-fashioned, and you know what? It just sort of like I embraced it, and it just went in so much so. I read that book, and it kept referring to it On the Edge of the Etheric, which is another Arthur Findlay book,
brilliant
in
book,
The Rock of Truth. So yeah, and I downloaded that, and I remember being in Egypt at the time, and downloaded it onto the Kindle. Yeah. And I read that in 2 days as well, and I thought, wow, and I just feel if the soul is to read it, then the soul, you will embrace it, and
absolutely.
And I was like gobsmacked, and I have had other books that have done that as well, but some other books that I try to read, I find difficult. When I put them down, then they get bored because it's my concentration. I can't take it in. And I'm not understanding it. But there are certain books that really, I believe that you're meant to read. And
absolutely. I've found books that resonate as well. And generally, I'm a very fast reader, especially if it's something of interest, or I may not have been interested in it, but sort of spirit just push it my way, and I find myself starting to flick through the first few pages, and I can read a book in a day, and I start flicking through the pages and realise I've got to the end. So I think I think when the soul needs it for whatever purpose, we do just hammer through them. And the thing that fascinated me years ago was that you can recall specific passages or how they struck you. It goes in a different way, because you can read something very quick and think, yeah, that was good, I enjoyed the story, but you haven't really got how can I say? You haven't got the composition of it. It's a story, you've read it. But when you read things like that are sort of spirit propelled, you latch on to facts and that, don't you? It's quite amazing.
Yeah, there's one book in particular out at the moment called Echoes. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, by Deborah Skelton. It's an amazing book, and it's got pioneers of the past, and like their philosophies and their teachings, and it's brought into the modern day age sort of thing. So it's really understood in this day and age. So it's like wisdom from the past, brought through for the future. It's really, really interesting, that. And that was another book that I read from front to back. That really, so obviously that was a bit of soul food as well.
I've got a book which in the next break I shall look for. A very famous guy. I can't remember his name, unfortunately, or the book at the moment. But it deals with that, and it's interesting that her book is called Echoes, and what you've said, because there's a kind of time frame of prediction and predictability with this guy's book. And it's a fairly scientific book, and you can follow it through, and you can see how things repeat and why they repeat, and sometimes why they kind of alter. It's almost as though they've got a slight update. So the repeat needs to be there, but there's an update with it. I'll have a look for that during the thing. But that's a fascinating book. I got a quick text from Raven's Pride, and she says that it is relevant. I can't say too much about it, but she says it'll be like the 9th occurrence, or the number 9 is particularly relevant with that day. And I know it's 6, and we can turn it upside down. And sometimes with numerology, you can just work endlessly to try and get the result that you want. So it's not a question of turning the 6 upside down, but it's very relevant. And 9 is certainly a power number, isn't it? So
yes,
it's very relevant. So you've hit the mark. So well done.
Okay.
Okay. What other books have really books? Sorry, I just got a gentleman. I don't know if this is your dad, but I've just got a gentleman that interrupts every now and again. If I said your dad was a bit compulsive, if he was in a conversation, he'd just want to sort of, not butt in, that's the wrong question, I've just been told off here. Not butt in, but would not say, oh yeah, actually, and he'd want to fill in. Would that make sense to you?
He could do on occasions, yeah. Yeah, he could.
Yeah, because this gentleman, I can't see him. He's hiding, bless him. So what I was going to say, other books, but he added all films. What other books or films have influenced you, and why?
Well, the first ever book that really influenced me onto my spiritual path was The Celestine Prophecy by James Redfield. You've heard of that? I think a lot of people have heard of that.
I've read that. Yeah.
And I just think that was another book that was in my early 20s. I read that. I was probably about 21, and I read that, and that had this clunking feeling. These experiences. It was about energy, and it really, even though it's a fictional book, it really moved me in a way. And they're the kinds of books that I like, where you have an experience and you can be moved by somebody's experience. And that can really shape you. And I didn't know what I was going to expect from that book, because it wasn't like the cover drew me to it. There was no reason. It had been out for a few years, and I'd just gone through some of my sister's books, and I just picked it out, and she never read it before, and I read it just off my own back, which I was never a reader, you see. So, but obviously the soul wanted to read it, and it moved me. But there's many things. I mean, I only believe it or not, Mavis is my mentor, but I only just read a book in this year, because again, it's one of them where I'd not, because I'm not a reader. I could be one of these people where I think, I'll read that, and they start piling up. I'll never get to read them.
I've got 19 books I'm supposed to review, and so I know exactly what you mean. You get them, and it's like, yeah, I'll do that, and another couple come in. You think, I'm just too busy. No offense to the books or whatever. Yeah, I understand.
You're all right. You're all right. It'll only take you 19 days. In a day.
I don't think I've got 19 days in me. It's but I've done the same thing. Sometimes, going into a bookshop and really drawn to a book and think, right, and I'll buy that and I'll stick it in the bookcase and I'll forget about it. And it might be 4 or 5 years later, because that's the right time. And it just clicks. I think, I need to read that now. I know exactly what you mean. What about films from a spiritual point of view that have had an impact? Because there's quite a few out there. Some are a little dark, aren't they? On the dark side of it. But I think that's what we all like to be frightened, don't we? We all like or most of us like a good horror film. So there's that kind of edge to it. But films kind of really had an impact with you.
Well, there's one film that It's not in the mainstream, but it's a Brazilian film, and it's called No Solar.
Yeah,
have you got that?
And the
book. I really enjoyed that. It's about the man's journey into the afterlife, and
he was a surgeon.
Describes yeah, and I just thought that was fascinating, and a lot of things clicked with me. You see, when I was watching that, when I sit with the spirit world and I have a vision or perception of things, it was sort of like that in a way. It sort of brought things together in a visual capacity for me, and I really enjoyed it. And I do give it to my students as well. I'll always copy it for them to take away for them to, because obviously it's a perception. Everybody has a perception of how they believe the spirit world is, and we're not really going to know that until we get there. Yeah. And it's just allowing to use that and get a perception for them to feel what's right for them. Yeah. Because no one can say that it's this way, it's that way.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, when you listen to Leslie Flint recordings, the people's journey into spirit and how they adapt and how they live, they're all different. There's obviously a similar theme, but each experience is very different. And Leslie did over 6,000 recordings during his lifetime. And it's phenomenal work. And it is all different. The fascinating thing about the book and the film is the film is a literal translation of the book. It's word for word, and you don't get that because a lot of things don't translate into film. For example, you can't have a scene in the library where someone's just reading a book for 10 minutes. Doesn't work on film. But with that book, it's a literal translation, and it is fascinating. The medium's name was Xavier, wasn't it? A very well-known medium in Brazil. Yeah. If anyone wants to, you can find that on the web. You can download it. You may have to pay for it. I think I bought it off Amazon. But if anyone wants to know what we're talking about, do get that film or try and see it because it's absolutely fascinating. One film that I really, really adore. I've got a few spiritual films that I absolutely adore, and one of them is A Matter of Life and Death. With David Niven. I don't know whether you've ever seen that, but there's a literal translation. It's a black and white film, but parts of it are in colour, and it was done just after the war. And I can tell from later reading, but the first time I saw that film, I knew that David Niven was a very spiritual guy, and obviously the people involved must have been. But it's a wartime film. It's basically about a pilot that should have died, and the guide missed him. It's a French guide from 16th century, I think, missed him in the fog. And he falls in love, and that changes the circumstances. So the guide can't just say, I'm collecting you now, you've got to come with me, because it will change the future because he fell in love. So it's nicely done, but it's a sort of struggle about what happens there. But that's a great book. The other book that I find really fascinating, and as soon as I saw it, within 10 minutes, I knew it was written by a medium, and that's Ghost. Because
that's the classic, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. So there are quite a few. There's one with Richard Dreyfuss as well, where he was a pilot, and he gets killed, and his wife moves in a new young pilot, and it's one that he's trying to sort of mentor from spirit, and then he finds they're falling in love and gets a bit jealous. I can't think of the name of it, but great film. We're just going to go into the last section of the show in a minute or two. have a little think about other films that have influenced you and why, and we'll talk about those, because I find it fascinating. There's a lot of those coming together, series on shows as well. You know, again, some of it's the dark side because that's kind of what people want. So you've got Vampire Diaries, that kind of thing. But have a little think about that, and we'll be straight back after this, and we're talking to Adam Berry. And if you want to get in touch with him, it's adamberry.com. We'll be straight back after this.
This is the Voice of Spirit, your connection to the other side.
To understand something spiritually, you must experience it. And in order to experience it, you have to experience it in your imagination.
Explore with us by calling 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230.
Give us a call now.
Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Everything that now exists was once imagined. Therefore, everything that is going to exist must first be imagined.
Back with your guide to spirit, Leo Bonomo.
Leo Bonomo.
After these brief words from our sponsors.
Alien Deceptions, a suspenseful sci-fi romance thriller by Tina Marie, featuring the tantalizing Erica Jones and the mysterious Russell Hamilton. An out-of-this-world book of fiction based on years of document facts and files the government does not want you to know about, at least not yet. Alien Deceptions by Tina Marie. Available now at Amazon.com or get a signed copy at TinaMarieEntertainment.com. Get your copy now.
My savings are gone.
Okay, where were they last?
Here, right before I spent them on the vacation to Aruba.
Weird. Not weird. Not saving now means no money later. For free ways to save, go to feedthepig.org. This message brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
Monday nights are about to become hauntingly good, as Reverend Sean Whittington possesses the airwaves with Vegas Supernatural. Tune in every Monday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern for Vegas Supernatural, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. There's a war raging between good and evil. The question is, which side are you fighting on? Tune in Monday nights as Reverend Sean Whittington sets the new standard for paranormal radio with some of the most influential personalities in the world today. Vegas Supernatural, hosted by Reverend Sean Whittington, every Monday night at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The one show even the devil doesn't want you to hear.
Here's what happened on the last episode of Three Guys, No Ties.
An off-duty New York City police officer reportedly hired a Brooklyn prostitute who ended the night by stealing his personal car and service weapon when he stopped at an ATM to pay her.
Oh, how messy does this get?
Three Guys, No Ties. Wednesday nights, 7 to 9 Pacific on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
One of the planet's most powerful antioxidant products is here for you to enjoy. Chaga Mushroom Tea. This tea has been used as a potent natural health solution for thousands of years. In fact, the Chinese call it King of the Herbs. The health value alone is worth a look, as Chaga Mushroom Tea packs a punch with pure vitality and smooth energy. It's 100% wild-crafted, safe, and effective. Get it now at ArcticChaga.com. That's ArcticChaga.com. Or call 916-969-2678. That's 916-969-2678. Chaga Mushroom Tea.
Chaga Mushroom Tea.
Order your supply today.
Welcome back to the Voice of Spirit, your connection to the other side.
There's no accidents in this universe. We all show up here with a purpose. There's an intelligence that is a part of everything and everyone, and all of us are connected to it.
Connect with us on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Even better, join us live in our chat room at kcorradio.com. To get a free reading during the show, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230.
Give us a call now.
Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. And now, inspirational clairvoyant medium, psychic, and your connection to the spirit, the host of the Voice of Spirit, Leo Bonomo.
And a very, very warm welcome back to the last segment. It's been a fascinating interview. And we were talking just before the break about different films like Ghost. And during the break, we've been discussing, The Sixth Sense, Avatar as well, which is a very spiritual film, and others. Yeah. And we're talking to Adam. So welcome back for the last segment. It goes surprisingly fast, doesn't it?
A couple of hours. Yeah. Surprising. Yeah.
It's I think it's just wonderful when people come on, not you, but they go, oh, I'm a bit nervous, like maybe I'll do half hour, maybe an hour, and they go, God, 2 hours, where's it gone? I love it. And I think personally, that's down to the guests. Because once you've got that energy there, it just flows. Yeah, so we were talking about films. The Others is another great film as well, isn't there? There's a whole, there's a glut of wonderful spiritual films. Okay, so apart from films and books and the SNU, what else has been your inspiration mediumistically, spiritually?
Well, obviously there's been Mavis. That has been a catalyst. There's been a whole range of people that have been an influence in my development. And I just think that throughout the time of me developing, I have had the opportunities to be able to attend a workshop or a week course at the college with some fantastic tutors, and I find that they really inspire me. I mean, I went to one with Simon James and Brian Robertson. It was last year, and I was at a point where, and I think we all go through this at some point. It's like, what's going on? What is going on in the world, and what am I doing? And the first 5 minutes of their address, I was in tears. It just put everything back together for me. And it was, and that's it. And I think and feel people like that are so inspiring, and that's how I one day would love to be seen as, because I do believe that we, as well as we connect with the spirit world and we bring that evidence, and we're the healer, the healers between two worlds. We also have that opportunity to help people move forward, and that could be with words, that could be with the philosophy, because what I've witnessed and experienced through attending lectures and talks and services and doing my own services is that people may come up to you afterwards. They may not have got a message from the loved one in the spirit world, but they may have been really touched by the words that you've said and saying, it felt like you was talking to me. And I think there needs to be a lot more of this to be able to move people with the power of words. Because, some people go to the churches or centres or demonstrations like I did, investigating. But if they go that once and get that contact, and that could be that healing between two worlds for them. But then it's what is after that? What is after that for that person? They've got the confirmation that the loved one's fine and well in the spirit world, and they've got that evidence. But then it's a case of we need to start living. So we need to get the tools within ourselves to start living, and that's where again the principles inspire me, because it's a way of life. So I've sort of gone off on a tangent there, but I get inspired by people. I get inspired. I love people. I love watching people. I love people's stories, and I love the stories where they've struggled to get to where they need to, and become successful. I love them people that are struggling and are able to express where they are. Because it takes such a courage and a strength of spirit to describe that to people. But that's a way to step forward.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think you really went off tangent, because one of my subjects, some churches, they don't really want an address. They don't really want philosophy. It's and I've seen some abysmal addresses. One lady that was notable, she talked about her cat, and it's like, I couldn't believe it. What the cat did during the day and how she fed it and stuff. But I think a good address, as you'll know, it's not only a precursor in the sense of an address to the mediumship, but I find a good address really spirit inspired. It touches on a lot of things for the whole congregation, and it sparks something. And even if they don't get a message personally, it's what you've said. They identify with things and they think, do you know, that was for me. And I think a good address is as important, I think, as personal messages, because depending where you go, you can't give everybody a message. I went to a church, lovely little church, but I've moved so far away now I can't go back there. But the first time I went there, it was packed. It was only a very small church. I think there was 20 people, something like that, and had a nice little chat with the chairperson, and he said, right, the way we do things here is everybody gets a message. And I'm thinking, an hour and a half, that's going to be a push, but I just let spirit get on with it. And we eventually got round to everybody. And that's quite unusual, but you do find churches that expect, certainly if they've got a small congregation, they expect everyone to get a message. But when it's full, the address itself has, it has several focus points. It needs to be in line with what most of them are thinking and address what most of them are hoping to get a message about, etc. So I know sometimes messages can seem random, but they're actually, when they're really spirit directed, they're very focused, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely. And I went to America on a holiday back in June for 3 weeks, and we went to LA. And some people thought I was mad. Like, to go, you go into a spiritualist church or when you're on holiday and things. But that's my it's my way of life. So I like to see how, obviously we see a lot in England, so I wanted to see what it was like in America. And I may never go back there again. You never know. So it was just and it didn't focus on the whole holiday, but it was just a part of it. And we actually went to a place called Agape in Los Angeles, and have you heard of Michael Bernard Beckwith? He was on The Secret.
It rings a bell. Right. It rang a bell. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm a great fan of manifestation and that. Yeah.
Yeah, the law of attraction. Well, he was part of that book, and if you see the DVD, he was the guy with dreadlocks, and it's his centre. And it was like over 400 people there on a Sunday service, and it was just phenomenal how he was up there. He's kind of a motivational speaker. But one thing that they had, which I thought was, and it relate this to spiritualism, even though they call it a trans-denominational centre. So it incorporates every faith and every religion, regardless of who you are. you're welcome to this place, and and it just a turn that they had like a theme of the month, and it was I want you to go big and go home. And that was like expanding your consciousness out, expanding your spirit to join the Great Spirit. And once you've joined that Great Spirit, you've gone home. So it was going big and going home. And it very much reminded me of going into the power.
Mm.
And it was very inspirational. But I think it's important that we go to different places and be inspired by different people. Absolutely. Because I wasn't to know that, and I'm sat there thinking, because with some faiths they wouldn't
they don't
appreciate they don't encourage mixing, but they don't also encourage same-sex relationships. So I'm thinking, I'm sat in there with my husband, and I'm like thinking, yeah, they're all very spiritualized, and but they may think in this way. And then the next thing, and it's that thought process again, it was, and next weekend we've got Pride. How about that? And everyone's applauding. And I thought, gosh, it really is. And I thought, wow, this was an experience, a real experience. So it was, I think many things can inspire us, but we've got to be open-minded as well to the inspiration. We can't just be focused on and be narrow-minded and think everything's black and white. We've got to allow the grey in.
You do find some mediums, sorry for interrupting, Adam, you do find some mediums, they will definitely pick and choose what they want and what they believe in, and they become very rigid in their thoughts. And I think, for me, that's a very downward spiral, because if you can't learn something, I encourage all my students to go and see as many teachers, have as many experiences as they can, because we all teach differently. We've all got slightly different views, and it's there's an old saying, isn't there? Travel broadens the mind, because you get used to different cultures and foods, etc., etc. And personally, I think mediumship should be like that. It's like being at a banquet, and it's like, oh my God, where do I start first? What do I want to taste? And I think it should be like that, because we're here to experience. Not as mediums, just as souls incarnate, and we're here to experience as much as we can on every level that we can, so that when we go back, we've done as much with the journey as we can fit in. But I do find some mediums, they're very closed-minded, and they don't believe in this, they don't believe in that. I find, what are your views? I'm not trying to put you into a corner here. What are your views on reincarnation?
It's a different. I'm open-minded to it. I'm not saying that there's definitely not, because and this is on the basis of, like you see these documentaries where you see these children that can actually recite and say where they've lived and where they were born, and
absolutely,
and describe things.
Yeah,
and sometimes I think, well, how could that be possible? And then I actually think as well that maybe they've got someone in the spirit world that's so close to them that they can actually pick up on that information as well. So I've got sort of like logically, I think of it in all different ways to try and express it. So it's not saying that it's definitely not, but it's just open to question, and it's something that just needs investigating, doesn't it? I can't say that there's no.
Sorry.
Even
carry on, Adam.
Sorry.
No, it's
even though on the the path of eternal progress open to every human soul, if it was to be eternally progressing, then why would we come back? So there's that as well within the philosophy. But I don't know. So I'm just very open-minded on it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, personally, from my own experiences, I went through a part where in order for me to progress, there were flashbacks of past lives, and I know I've shared a life. Well, this was the fourth life with my ex-wife. Apparently, I didn't learn very well. Then we got divorced, so kind of got it right in the end. No, I'm only joking, of course, but. Yeah, I think part of the eternal progress, the way that I understand it, is there's only so much that we can do in spirit. And one very simple explanation of that is, in spirit, obviously, we have a light body, a body of energy. Here, this is very, very dense. This body we carry about is, until we're out of it or have astral projection and that kind of thing, you don't realize how dense and solid and heavy this body is. So the fact that we're here at this point, there are only so many things that we can experience in spirit. So there is a need to incarnate to experience certain things like walking and control of the body, or addiction, whatever things that we wouldn't have in spirit. But the other understanding that I have is that here what we live in much longer now, but in 80 years and 10, we've got experiences kind of condensed, and in the lifetime that we have here, which is still the blink of an eye, it would take us perhaps many hundreds of years in spirit. So I know that there are benefits from it, but as you say, it's fascinating. When there's a famous child, and at the age of 6, he was drawing very, very detailed drawings of the inside of a fighter plane, all the dials, all the switches, they were in exactly the right place. And he turned out to be a World War II German fighter pilot. And they went back, and he was describing and that. So there is, I find the whole thing fascinating, But I think one of the things that sorry, go on.
I was just going to say there's.
Sorry, there's a slight delay. I was going to say one of the things that kind of offsets it and makes a mockery is, you'll get this used to happen. You'll get incarnation or reincarnation parties, and you'd get like 20 people turn up as Cleopatra, and you think, there's obviously something wrong there, It kind of offsets things. The thing that gets me is why is everyone? Well, not everyone, because there's lots of children like that pilot, but lots of people have always been someone famous, and I think that's something else that kind of knocks it out of the park. Sorry, I interrupted you. Go on.
Yeah. Well, that's a similar thing, isn't it? In the trans archetypes, as you go back, everyone was a Native American Indian, everyone was, and it's the signs of the times that they perceive that archetype in a way. And now it's like we're getting people from Atlantis, aren't we, and Lemurians and all these different things I'd never heard of before. But there's no proof of that. But I don't know, and I think that's where I sort of come from. There's got to be the evidence there. But I was just going to say a story about my granddad, who I call Dad. He always told me a story when he was in the RAF, and he was stationed in Ceylon, I think it was, and he said he got this familiar feeling, and he knew what was coming round the corner. He knew what buildings were there, and he went into this place, and he had to sign in, and he signed his name as Mark and a squiggle. Well, he's called Tony. So he just thought, oh, that's strange. But he was telling all his friends about what was around the corner and that he's been here before, but he can't have been because it was the first time that they'd been there. Yeah. And then when they went round the corner, they saw a grave, and it had Mark and a squiggle on it. It had been scratched off. So my theory within that was because my dad thought, is this... he's been here before, so he's getting these feelings of he's been here before. He knows it, and and got influenced to write Mark. But is that because the spirit world was close to him, and the essence of where he where this Mark was what was influencing him? You know, in his energy, energetically. And again, that got me questioning whether the spirit world come close, or the energy of the path that Mark had taken was very much within. My dad had stepped into that, and
yeah,
you know, so there's. But my dad really thought. Sorry, my dad really thought he'd been here before.
Yeah, so, I can understand that. I think it needs a little more research. I mean, there's not Blundell. What's his name? He's a famous regressionist. I can't think of his name now. It needs a little more research, but there was a story about a little Israeli boy, and he was only 3 or so, and kept talking about this other life and up on the Golan Heights. And the parents finally got fed up with that, and they took him there, and he took them to a spot, and he said, "This is where I was killed." They dug and they found a body. He told them he'd been killed with an axe, and they went some distance away. They found an axe, and he then went to the village where he was supposed to have lived, and he met the guy that had murdered him. And obviously the guy had got away with it, and he was so shocked that he admitted to the murder of whoever it was, and got a jail sentence. But that needs a bit more investigation. But there are fascinating stories, you know.
Definitely.
That need to, because again, that is something else that it's like, if that spirit influence in solving a crime, yes, you can see it like that. I just find the whole thing fascinating. I know from my own experiences of past lives, and one morning I had a flashback of 6 lives, and I was murdered in each of them, and it only lasted for about 15 minutes. It's just the last few minutes of each of these lives, and that was very interesting. But I guess it's one of those things when we finally pass over, we'll go, because I could spend a couple of lifetimes just looking for all this stuff, you know, to take it all in and see what's right or not. It's going to be, it's going to be fascinating when we pass, isn't it?
Well, maybe as well when we do get to the spirit world, there'll be a lot more questions, because there'll be a lot more. We may solve the puzzle of this life, but then there's lots of different experiences and to progress with the soul, isn't there? So it opens up new challenges and new progression. So
it does. Unfortunately, we've kind of run out of 2 hours worth of airtime. It's been fascinating talking to you. It's been a wonderful interview. I'm very privileged. If anyone wants to talk to Robert or get in touch or have a Adam, it's adamberry.com. Your middle name's not Robert, is it? I'm not sure where that comes from.
No, it's not. No.
So if you want Adam to read for you, or you want to get in touch, see what he's doing, where he is, then it's Adam Berry Medium, all one word, .com, and we'll see you next week.
You've been listening to Leo Bonomo, the host of The Voice of Spirit, live every Thursday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. For more information on the show, guests, and host of The Voice of Spirit, or to book a private reading, please visit leo-bonomo.com. That's leo-bonomo.com. Your connection to the other side is just a phone call away. The Voice of Spirit.
It is amazing, is it not?
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51.
Wait, that doesn't exist.
This is the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now for the news.